Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. That there's something wrong. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. Do you want to know what it is? You can feel it when you go to work, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Is the truth, nothing more.
Do you have rule over your spirit? See, no rule over his own spirit is what we're going to be looking at today. Because a person who don't have rule over their spirit, then we don't know what spirit that you're actually dealing with. Because many of us say we have a spirit and we have the spirit of God, but we're going to find out the difference between this. Do we have a rule over it? So do you have to rule over your own spirit? And it means that you're following the spirit, because some spirits follow the flesh. And when you following the flesh, you following something that is contrary to what you really think that you're following. When you see a man or you see a woman, do you vision in your mind to be performing sexual acts on that man or on that woman? That's something you need to think about. Are you performing these acts as you see them walking or in your area? Do you think that they are doing something to you in your mind? Do you believe, or can you hate someone without a cause? A person you don't know, you never met, never spoke to them, you never seen them before, but you dislike that person. This person could even be towards you, or you can be evil towards another nation just because of their skin color, or you feel privileged because you are the majority in the area that you're in at that point in time. So you decide to oppress them for whatever reason because of their nation or their skin color. Or when you're at a function, you can look down on others just because. When you walk outside, or when you see a tree, do you dislike that tree that's in front of your yard for no reason whatsoever? You never even pay the tree no notice. However, when you see a person, you would dislike them for whatever reason. However, when you see a tree, a bug, or whatever in your driveway, a bird in the tree, you pay no mind to that. As if they was minding their own business, but you had no problem. But if it's another nation, you have a problem with them, and you will dislike or oppress them, harass them, for what reason? And why? These are things we want to really kind of face today. It's not them, and it's not you, but it's what's in you, and it's the spirit. These are the things that is contrary to another, meaning this. And why it says we need to try the spirits and see whether are these spirits from God. Because this is the important part that we need to see on what's going on here. See, in Ecclesiastes chapter 6 and verse 12, it makes something very clear. It says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." So we're not fighting against flesh and blood ever. But many people think we are, but we're not. But against principalities, meaning powers and spirits of the air. See, these are rulers of darkness. These spirits work evil. So do you have control or not control over your very thoughts or your beliefs and your actions on what you're doing? Are your actions foolish? Are they according to what you're feeling? Being fooled of your own follies. See, men and women today profess that they are godly and even have godly knowledge. They have understanding, or do they? See, a fool's fool can fool you doing foolish things. This has nothing to do with their flesh. This has everything to do with their spirit, but it's going to satisfy the flesh because that's what they were going to act it out in, because their spirit lusts for these things. See, you cannot satisfy your spirit doing fleshly things based on fleshly actions. Meaning what? If you trying to do something fleshly to fulfill a fleshly thing, let's see, can these things fulfill your spirit? Is eating physical food fulfilling your spirit? No. What about drinking? No. What about sexual acts? No. What about gambling, traveling, sports, or watching a television program on TV? No, none of these things can physically satisfy your spirit. These and others satisfy the flesh and not the spirit. So the question is what? How can one create something, a desire, good or bad, according to the spirit, to satisfy the spirit? Good or bad? Because good or bad, you're going to satisfy the spirit one way or the other. And we know this in something that we do know, that the spirit cannot be seen or touched. It's a desire within. So, for example, we're looking at Exodus chapter 19, verse 5. It says, "Now therefore, if ye obey my voice indeed in these works, and keep my covenant, then ye shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine." Now, this is something that most people find kind of simple as they see it on paper, but it's more complex when you look at it in the spiritual. Because it's based on something you cannot see. You cannot feel it. You cannot touch it. It's like a whisper in the air. It's based on a promise. It's based on these things that you verily cannot see. See, people will tell you or say to you, and some people will put a promise on paper. And if they put it on paper, that's a contract that you can physically see, but that's not a promise. That's a contract. See, the promise is a covenant is based on spiritual laws, and spiritual laws are vows that's within the contract, which is on a promise, which is based on faith. In belief of fulfilling the spiritual contract, this is not a contract that can be taken to court because it is based on a promise, and you and the person only can see what is based inside the contract. The court cannot. So that's why when people have something that's based on promise, then they go to court. They go to court. And the court looks for something that is in writing. Other than that, it's based on a promise that was between the two parties. Something you cannot see. See, who's ruling over the spirit that is within you? See, this is the question. So if it's wicked, then the promise is worthless, and here's why. A promise to pay here or there is worth nothing unless it's a physical court on what they were saying based on the contract. But you see how the communication between two, this is payment. Otherwise, this is a voice against their voice. You following this? See, contracts are spiritual contracts. They're two different things. See, it's the same as I met a Christian he was in Hawaii. True story. And he wanted us to, well, he wanted me to come down and actually wanted me to reside over a church down there, but that wasn't going to happen. However, that's not the point. The point was this. He and his wife was selling T-shirts as they doing it. And they called it, I believe their ministry was something by the sea, because they had it at a timeshare, but they have it every Sunday. But they sell T-shirts. And as they sell these T-shirts, and if you were short on funds or you did not have the funds, you can actually, they'll still give you the shirt. But then they'll look for you and they'll tell you, just send me the funds. And they'll give you the address, they have everything there. And based on that promise, that contract that they virtually told you, on basing once you go home or whatever you're doing, that you want to send them the payment of that shirt. Based on that alone. Based on their promise to pay, they believe that you will send this payment. So what kind of spirit do they have? Good or evil? See, because some is seeking good and some will say it's evil. However, you do this among Israel. You have a lot of Israel will sit there and never pay for that shirt. And these people was clearly not Israel. So was they acting good or bad? See, these things will not happen within Israel, because most of it, when we're dealing with Israel, and many times we will sit there and marginalize in our head why we shouldn't have did it in the first place, or why we should not send those funds to them. So what spirit are we dealing with? Because they acting as very as what Israel should be doing. So what spirit is ruling our bodies? See, you have women today that have these men that make promises. And based on that promise, they allow this man to have their way with them. From 14 years on up. And checking things. And I've seen that people as young as 12 can actually end up having a baby. As young as 12. A 12-year-old girl at that age is actually capable of actually being impregnated. It's crazy. However, from 14 years up, we have men making promises, or young boys making promises to these girls to have their way with them. But whose fault is it? See, because it's not only just his fault, it's also her fault. However, whose spirit is ruling what? Because we know here that the spirit of lust is part of that spirit. How do we know? Because the Bible also says this as we look at it. In Galatians chapter 5, we'll see this in what's ruling flesh. We're going to see what's ruling flesh. And we see in here in Galatians chapter 5, verse 19, it says, now the works of the flesh are made known, which are these: adultery, fornication. And fornication, when these young women having children, fornication is one of them. Lasciviousness is the other one, lust. Lust. This is the part of the problem. This is one of the main problems we have today. Because the Bible makes things perfectly clear on what we should not be doing and what these young girls and young boys should not be doing. Meaning this. When you go to 1 John chapter 4. Verse 1, it says, beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they are of God. Because many false prophets has gone out into the world. So what is this saying? What is this saying? See, it's saying try the spirits, and one must try to know, are they from God or false prophets? The same as one would say that they keeping them and they being like God, but a false prophet, meaning they are a complete liar. A complete liar. Because they're making promises as if they are gods, and they're not. And they lying. They had lied to you the very thing. Because we know in 1 John chapter 2, and when we get down to verse 4, it says, he said, I know him and keep not his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. Are you following me? See, these even saying that they know God but didn't keep none of God's commandments, nor the commandments that they even did, and they sit there and they told these people, they told these young girls on what they was doing, and they didn't keep nothing. So this is why we have so many young girls and young women and having fatherless children. Fatherless. Either through stupidity of gangs and killing one another over territory that many of these men will do, because that's one of the main parts on what they want to do, but through their stupidity of gangs and one another over territory, and their parents or them do not own, and lying to many of them, acting like they going to the pros of these sports, decide to go into these young girls. They decide to lie to them. You have people teaching contrary to what the Bible says. They telling you that the law is done away with. They tell you they can have sex and then they're going to be married, but they never had plans on with you to actually be married, but they only wanted you for that reason. And later they are gone, dealing with mainly boys, and you're not dealing with men. I don't care how you look at it, how you flip it, or how you script it out. You're still dealing with a boy. Dealing with someone who just carried a seed and transferred the seed into this young girl. This is the problem we have today. We have what we call a seed donor and nothing more. However, you have many of these same ones who's going out and telling you they have this spirit of God or they have this God-like thing, but as soon as they do this and they get what they want, and then they feel that they can move forward. They have off to the other one. It's the same doctrine of angels having sex with humans and producing children. And then what? Then never seen again. The same as these men doing. Worried about giving them money and about spending the money that they want to give to their child. So they decide to not give money because they saying that she's going to go spend this money on this and go spend this money on that. However, you'll go give this money and call it tithes, and you go give it to a church and go give it to a preacher who you never seen, heard, read anywhere in the Bible where God has a physical bank where he put in physical money. Never even including accepted it. Never even seen God will accept any type of fleshly thing from us. See, he tells you this and he makes all this clear. Because when we see these things, we want to continually think that we can just do things and God is going to accept it. And that's not true. See, because when you sitting there and you giving what you want to call physical money, you're giving it to a church, but you don't want to give it to the person where you done set and you done hoodwinked them on what you was doing. Then the first thing you want to do is give it to the church. In the church, and it tells you in Habakkuk chapter 1, verse 13, thou art purer eyes than to behold evil. Then the main thing we got to look at is that, and it says, and canst look upon iniquity. And you don't know where that money came from. You don't know the history of this money. So if you don't know the history, you don't know if it was involved in a robbery, drug, prostitution, and all these things. If you don't know this, and he's telling you, his eyes is pure to behold evil, he cannot look upon iniquity. You don't know what this money history is, and the first thing you want to do is calling yourself with a wicked spirit that you think is a good spirit, and you call yourself giving it to God. So who's wicked? Who's wicked? You having men seeing these young children and sitting there and they want to molest a child. But then they want to give something that's wicked to God. That is completely impure. You have these people who giving these doctrines of nonsense. They having multiple wives to fulfill lust. They having people teaching about these UFOs and ET phoning home. And it's talking about unidentified objects, but what you should have UFOs stand for should be IFOs, which is telling you this: identify foolish organizations. Because this is the silliness that they teach. See, it says, try the spirits to see whether they are from God. Try them. But if you don't try the spirits, you don't know what spirit you're dealing with. Because just like I said, in most times you always see in the Bible, flesh and blood will never inherit the kingdom of God. Never. Ever. Only the spirit. So when you're doing things according to the flesh, you can do those daily. That's not going to get you in heaven. Ever. So we have to kill this flesh daily. We have to baptize this flesh unto death. We have to baptize it, and most of them don't even know what that means. This is the problem that goes through, because we have so many Christian doctrines that go out there and they teach just pure silliness and don't know what things mean. So we have to kill this flesh on a daily basis unto death. See, look at here. We're going to go to 1 Corinthians. We're going to look at something, chapter 15, and we're going to go down to verse 29. And it says this. It says, else what shall I do which are baptized for the dead, if the dead raised not at all? And it's a question mark. People is even being baptized and not knowing what baptized mean or know what it was actually purposely done for. And it's meaning you're going to condemn it to death, but you're going to let it suffer unto death. You condemning it to death. The flesh will continually get up and will continually be killed. So the death, if it rises at all, and that's your flesh trying to rise, flesh which is condemned, it was baptized to death. Are you following me? This is why, let's look at verse 30, and it says more. And why stand we in jeopardy every hour? We're in jeopardy every hour. So we stand in jeopardy every hour because we are killing the flesh, because the flesh is going to try to rule over the spirit, because that spirit that rules the flesh will get you killed. Not in this world, but in the world to come. How? Letting him control you. But the Most High God said this. He said this in the main thing. See, in verse 31 it says, so I protest by your rejoicing, which I have in Christ Yahushua our Lord, I die daily. I die daily is the catch. So you have to condemn this flesh unto death. Condemn it unto death. The same as you'll see in Colossians chapter 2 and verse 14. He makes this clear. You have to condemn it unto death, but why? Because he's going to tell you this and he makes it clear. in 2:14 he says, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was written against us, which was contrary unto us, taking it out the way, nailing it to the cross, unto suffering, unto death. So we have to condemn it, baptize, we have to condemn it to death, and we have to kill it daily. Kill it daily, why? Because it's standing in jeopardy every hour. In every hour. These are things that we have to look at. These are things to where you need to look within yourself. Do you know a spirit that's ruling over you? See, and the only way you can truly find out, is this. Are you bold enough to do this? Are you bold enough to do this? See, some people will sit there and say, oh yeah, I do it, but are you bold enough to do this? See, in Psalms chapter 26 and verse 2, it says, examine me, O Lord. Prove me, test me, try my ruins in my heart. And he's telling you what he's saying. Try my desires, because that's what ruins mean. Try my desires and my afflictions, my affections of my heart. That's what he's saying right here. Try me. Prove me. Because many of our hearts is seeking lust. Many of our hearts is seeking things that is the desires to fulfill the lust of the flesh. Not feeling the desires of God. See, what is my God? Is God way perfect and not the foolish of those doctrines? See, God's way is a perfect way. See, the Lord will seek and he will sit there, and if he try you, you have to sit there and you have to trust in the Lord when he tries you. When he puts you in that heat, you have to sit there and you have to understand what he's doing to burn this sin out of you. Let's look at something. Let's go to 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel chapter 22. And we're going to pick it up at 31. And it says, as comparing for God, his way is perfect. But many of us try to go our own directions. Many of us look for our own way. See, this is the problem. The word of Yahweh is not tried. See, it tells you more. The word of the Lord is tried. He is a buckler to all them that trust in him. So the same will not try, because as I said from the beginning, we have to obey his word. His word you can't taste, feel, touch, or see. So I'm going right back to the beginning, because that's what we started out with, and this is something you need to understand. But many of us going to sit there and we're going to do things that's contrary to the word, thinking you fulfilling something for a short time and think you're going to gain something over the long time. And it's not going to happen. Because if you trust him, you have to obey the words that he's saying. And most people try to obey what is written and not obeying what he is saying. So do you hear his words? Have you tried his words? And in fact, many people, we look at Job and we want to understand what Job is saying. But when we go to Job chapter 12 and verse 11, he says this. He says, "Doeth not the ear try words?" Doeth not the ear try words? Can you see words? Or is the sound of the words going in your ear? Can you see it? No, you cannot see it. Or the sound of the words that's going in your ears, can you see the words going in your ears? Do you see them going in there? See, if we got foolish people, well, I can see them. They let you know you're foolish. See, this is letting you know you playing with the word. But he's telling you clearly right there. He's making sure it's clearly. Do you not hear, do not the ear try words? And the mouth tastes his meat. Can you? No. Because it's your spirit has to do that. Because the spirit has to taste the meat, and the spirit has to hear the words. And his desire should be your spirit can. Many people are going to go through this and not even understand a bit about what's going on. Not a bit of it. See, but he says this because it's not for everybody. And that's why he does it in this fashion. Because he says this in Genesis chapter 4, verse 7. He said, if thou doest well, thou shalt not be accepted. And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door. And unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. See, the creator of sin is who? The creator of sin is who? But it's the creator of sin in you. See, many of us, we love to sit back and go through scripture and go through scripture and go through scripture, and we like to fluff around here and we like to fluff around there. But really never know what our spirit actually is. Try the spirit. Be bold enough to go to God and say, try me. Try me. I dare you. If you truly seeking God and you stand before him and you say, try me, I dare you. See, many of us play as we believe. Play. P-L-A-Y. Play. See, many of us is not really in the word. We just see the word. What spirit is ruling over you? See, if the creator of sin and the desires to rule over your spirit, then you're no longer the ruler, but you become a servant to sin, and sin has to pay that debt, and that debt will be paid. Because at the end, you're going to pay the debt. Either your debt is to God or your debt going to be to sin. And God is not the one who collects on sin. These is a hard thing for many of us. We're going to go through, and that is not going to happen. Many of us is thinking we're going to go through life, and we're going to go through life, and it's just going to be one big waste. Proverbs chapter 25 in verse 28. It says this. He says, he that have no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls. When you have no rule over your own spirit, it's like a city that is broken down. Meaning what? It has no wall. It has no protection. So whatever you comparing to is this. In 26, let's see what he's going to compare himself to this to see a little bit more what's going on. It's saying, as snow in summer. Meaning what? Can snow survive in the summer? See, but we got fools. I guarantee you, we got a fool sitting right now, sitting there saying, yeah, it can survive in complete silliness because it's going to melt. As snow in summer. You know snow is not going to survive in summer. It has no protection. Heat is going to win. Heat is going to win. In fact, in as rain in harvest. As rain in harvest. What is that saying? In a harvest, only a fool will try to harvest in the rain season. And it ain't none. So, honor is not seemingly for a fool. And we have people reverencing fools. They're reverencing a preacher in a heartbeat. They're reverencing a preacher in a heartbeat. Same as women are reverencing their boyfriends. Because they think he's going to go. Clueless on what's going on. See, and it's saying even more. It's saying, as comparing the bird by wandering, as comparing the swallow by flying, so the curse causeless shall not come. As a wandering bird swallow by flying. See, and the curse is clueless shall not come. They can care less of what's going to happen. That's the majority of what everybody thinks. They have nothing and have no opinion, or they always have an opinion and they have no bite behind it. Causeless. Causeless. It's the same thing I was saying. What do I mean by this? Let's bring this a little bit closer. The same as people posting everywhere about this kid got shot by some people down in Brunswick, Georgia. You had everybody want to sit there and say something on Facebook, and people who put it up. And the same thing is you put up a number for them to call. And no, I'm not going to call. No. But I say something on Facebook. But I'm not going to call. You're causeless. You're technically worthless. What that is. You're worthless because you have something to say, you have an opinion, but when it comes time down for something to have, you like a wandering bird, a swallow flying. So the curse causeless shall not come. You follow me? You sit there and have something quick to say, but then we can put up a number and tell people to sit there to contact these authorities and let them know your dislike and they need to get something and put this pressure out there. The first thing, no, I'm not going to do that, but I'll post on Facebook. I'll put this on Instagram. I'll put this on Twitter. I ain't going to call them cops. That makes you worthless. Just what that you're worthless. And then you're worthless, and that's another test to where you don't make it. Why, if you don't stand, you stand for everything, won't stand up for nothing? What spirit dwelling in you? She said this your baby, and all of a sudden you find out reason why you should break up. You're worthless. You're worthless. These are things that we do. We'll sit there, and men and women today will sit there and have every type of opinion and every type of cause to say whatever they need to do. And as soon as it comes down time to do something, they're worthless. Worthless. Let's look at some more. Let's look at some more. It says, a whip for a horse, a bridle for an ass, a ride for the fool's back. Why is it even saying this? See, being lost is one of the same as for the whip of a horse. See, he's going to impose his will on that horse, the same as they imposed the will on our forefathers. They done imposed it on us so great to where many of us can sit there and see something that's happening and will not do nothing. We will sit there and oppose something so great to where you'll sit there and go in a neighborhood where a neighborhood looks and say, man, this is a beautiful neighborhood. But then your neighborhood looks like trash. Because things can happen in your neighborhood and the first thing come out of your mouth is, no, I just mind my business. See, but the neighborhood that looks good, the smallest thing can happen, and the first thing they're going to do is notify the proper authorities to make sure that kind of trash is not going on in their neighborhood, but it goes on in your neighborhood. So what kind of spirit do you have? See, because you have a spirit of fear. You have a spirit that is good for nothing. See, this is to whoever doing this. These are the things that's happening today. We have people who sit there, and the same thing is we tie it down to a spirit the way people will sit there and complain about. You have other nations in your same area selling stuff back to you, and it's just like they propping up, and they sit there, and you want to see why I say it's gold, why gold is so much spoken in the Bible, because it's talking about you and what they do. What do they do with the gold? They harvest it out of your community. They set up shop and they dig, and then when they can't get no more gold from there, they leave that hole there and they go prop up another hole somewhere else and start digging. And the first thing we're so stupid to do is sit there, oh, I need my weave hair. So you're going to go to that place. Well, I got to get this. Besides going further and get what you need to get, but you want to sit there and you'll support them, and you won't see them put a dime back in your community. Go sit up shop in theirs and see where they even walk in your store. We got everything to say. But when it comes down to when you have to stand, it lets you know you have a spirit of fear. It's not a God. See, when you sit in there and you have messed around with these young women, these young girls, and went into them, and now they have children, and then you decide you cannot take care of this child, and you don't even want this child to know you. Then you want to sit there and say that this child, I need to find out. Well, I'll tell you what, let's go to court, and I need to get a DNA. Are you serious? Child look just like you. Child look identical to you. Look like you spit him out. I don't know if this child mine. I don't know if this child is mine. I don't know if this child is this. But you done did these duties, and you sitting there thinking you've done something, and the first thing that you believe is, no, this is not my child. Silliness. This is what we boil down to. Boys trying to play and put himself in a man's shoe. And girls then got caught up on themselves. Stupidity on top of stupidity. See, it says this even more. So it goes on. So a rod on for a fool's back. Meaning what? See, that's why that rod is on the fool's back. But it says this. It's according to your folly. It's according to your folly. And it goes on more in verse 4. It tells you this. It says, answer not a fool according to his folly. See, answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou also be like him. Lest there be also like him. Meaning what? Let's look at something. We're going to go to Ecclesiastes. We got to go to Ecclesiastes, and we're going to go to verse 10. Actually, I got to go down. We're going to go to verse 10. We're going to go to chapter 10. We're going to look at something. We're going to find out something that's really peculiar on this. We're going to go to chapter 10. We're going to look at verse 1. It says, dead flies cause the ointment of what? Apothecary. Apothecary to send forth a stinking savor. Are you serious? Dead flies. Why is it even said that? And it goes on more. It says, so do a little folly him that is in reputation for wisdom and honor. So the same one who thinking he has that reputation for wisdom and honor is the same one that you sitting there that you want to hold up under, the same ones you running inside these camps, you running inside these churches, you want to sit there and hold them in honor, and they ain't no different than dead flies. In apothecary, you want to know what that means. That's one who prepares and sells drugs or meds. That's what that's saying. Meaning either he's going to be a druggist or a pharmaceutical, or he's pharmaceutically being a chemist and selling you drugs to where you can stay in this state. And you're nothing than sitting there like dead flies. You stink. Compared to same as one folly and no one's reputation. And you want to hold this one who has no sense, no accountability, no scruples whatsoever. You want to hold his reputation as one having wisdom and honor. Holds a dumbness as wisdom and is no different than one that's selling drugs. And you got many of these people who go to these churches, and some in camps, who their first line of thing was a big time dope dealer. They tell you that there was a dope dealer or a pimp in the church, and then the first thing they do, they just switched it from pimping on the street and selling on the church to now they just pimping the people. And we foolish enough to sit there with them. We're foolish enough to sit there with them. Because your spirit is jiving with his spirit. His spirit ain't never changed. He just changed this from illegal to legal. And that's the spirit many of us roll with. So you have these women want to sit there and thinking that they're more clamorous. But nothing more. Meaning this. See, because these women is being foolish. These women is being foolish. So you can't hold them guiltless. Because they just as guilty. Meaning what? See, many of these women are clamorous. Meaning what? Let's find out what this is. Let's find out what this is talking about. We'll go over here to Proverbs chapter 9 and find out a little bit more about the women, because the same thing with the men, the same thing for the women. And it says, a foolish woman is clamorous, and she is simple and know nothing. So what is this clamorous? See, clamorous is foolish women, meaning what? See, this is the spirit that is in you. This women who knows nothing, and what do they know? Absolutely nothing. A clamorous woman is this. They're loud, they quarrelsome, they brawling, they demanding, they loud and urgency about everything, they reckless and acting on their own interests of greed. Clamorous woman. Clamorous woman. Oh, you see, and women can sit there and say they're not like that. You got some sitting here right now saying, no, I'm not like that. And we're going to go into some of these characteristics and we're going to find out what's going on. Same as some of these dudes that's doing the same thing. But they're loud, they quarrelsome. They finding anything to brawl about. They demanding loud, urgently, and about any and everything, and reckless and acting on their own interests. Meaning what? Let's look at it. Let's look at this. We got to look at this because many people sitting there thinking that they're not like this. We're going to go to Proverbs chapter 7, verse 8. Most people don't even like to go to Proverbs. But it's saying this. These clamorous, foolish women, in verse 8, it says, passing through the streets near her corner, and he went the way to her house. So these are nothing but like dogs. That's all they are. They're like dogs. Dogs in heat. Meaning what? Let's look at verse 9. In twilight, who like to hang out in twilight? In the evening, who want to hang out till the next day? In the black and dark night. See, this is what they like to hang out in. See, this is why the women should never be out at night. Because when you're out at night, this is what you portraying. Birds of a feather flocks together. So you got women, I don't mind being out. Yeah, okay. This is it. Only two things you're gonna find in evening and twilight. See, it brings me even back to where Mike Tyson called this one girl. I can't remember her name. He called her. It was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Asked her to come over, and she was stupid enough to go over there. And only two things going to go down at that time of the night. And she knew it. She could sit there and play stupid all day. See, but we have people who will play this kind of stupidity and then want to hold it on the man, and they was just as stupid as the man because she went. She was being a whore. And he was being the purchaser of them. This spirit is ruling that right now. Watch this, verse 10. And behold, and remember, there met him a woman with the entire of a harlot and subtle heart. She was cunning. Harlot. I want you to remember that. You need to remember that. See, remember these things as women who went out and met and want to dress like what? Their entire is of a harlot. The cunning heart of them would be in this. Going to go out. Going to look this certain way. Going to run to the club. Well, I want to go out and have fun. Dressing, and all the man have to do, he can sit there and he can count the pubic hairs on your body. And you think you look good. See, it goes on more. It goes on a little bit more. It says what? Because it's still telling you it's a harlot. And it says, she is loud and stubborn, clamorous, clear. She is loud and stubborn, clamorous, and simple. Loud and stubborn, knowing nothing. People say, I like the clubs. Okay. That's still right here. And it says, her feet abide not in her house. She can't stay at home. She love to go out. She love to be in the street. Laying in the streets, can't wait. Can't wait till Friday night to where she can get in the streets. So I'm gonna do it all week. See, and it's not speaking of clothing. It's not speaking of clothing when it's talking about her attire. When it's saying attire here, it's not speaking of clothing. See, this is her covering. This is her mindset. This is her knowledge because she knows nothing. That's her covering. She has none. So she might well just be on the street naked. See, that's what this is saying. With the woman with the attire of a harlot, she's out there naked because she's knowing nothing. Are you with me? But we're going to go on a little bit more here. Now, is she without? Now the streets and lieth in wait at every corner. At every corner. See, we have these young women who want to go out there, and this is what they do. And they want to fill up these clubs, thinking they're doing something. It's telling you right there. You got the entire of a harlot, the mindset of a harlot. The mindset of a harlot. You got guys who sit there and you think they'll make it, and the first thing you want to do, well, let me lay down with, let me get a baby, and he'll be stuck with me for 18 years to where I can get paid. The mind of a harlot. You have these women on basketball wise, ain't none of them married. I think one or two of them might be married, but all of them not married. And they saying they got baby daddies. They done sit there and done did the same thing here, then open up their legs to everything that passed by on the street and tried to make sure that they can get pregnant. This is what we do. This is Israel. We're gonna be a whore in the daytime, and we're gonna also be a whore in the spirit. So what spirit is on us? See, it tells you this, and it makes sure that we're clear. It tells you in verse 18. It says, so she caught him, and what happened? And kissed him, and asked with an imprudent face, are you serious? And said, wait a minute. She kissed him, and they did what they did, and sitting there, as she done accommodated him, she gonna ask him with an imprudent face, meaning she had a stern look at him. This is what she's saying. She done had a stern look at him, and what she say? I have a peace offering with me. This day I paid thy vows. I paid thy vows. I done paid thy vows. So it's the same thing when you get back up here in verse 5. It tells you what? And they that keep thee from the strange woman, from the stranger, which flattereth with her words, which is a fool. And answer according to her folly, unless she has her own eyes, because she has her own way that she want to do everything. The message of a fool. The message of a fool. This is what's going on. This is what's going on. But it got more to it. It got more to it. See, because when you look back at this and you see some of this that's going on, what do it say? What do it say here? It tells you this over here in Proverbs chapter 9, verse 6. Actually, it says, in verse 5, it says, come, eat of my bread and drink of thy wine which I have mingled. Forsake the foolish and lie and live, and go in the way of understanding. Are you with me? if he that proveth a scorner getteth to himself shame. He that rebuketh a wicked man getteth himself a blot. Why is this? Reprove not a scorner, lest hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee. See, this is what people do. They believe that they can reprove somebody, and they want to sit there and they want to talk about how much different someone else was. But the first thing they want to do is hold on to everything that is contrary to what the word been telling them. Are you with me? See, these are the things that we look for, and we never sit there and think anything contrary to what the word says. We want to sit there and have our children out there and just doing all kind of just silliness, and we think nothing of it. Nothing. This is the problem. And then we sit there and think that we can sit there and let our children do these things, and we don't think nothing about them. Just let them just do it. Now you're scared of your child, so you let your child do this. You have men and women buying their children condoms, putting your child on this birth control. And then if they catch something, you're going to sit there and thinking they wasn't protecting themselves. They shouldn't have been doing nothing no way. You got a lot of these women running around wondering what they're getting. What spirit do you have? See, because if you have the spirit to where you want to keep committing fornication, see, that's the spirit that you have. And that spirit that you have is in another book. It's not in the one book. It's in the other books, which has a lot of stuff with it. But we want to sit there and think that we can come to God and we can come that way. We sit there, well, I don't know if I can make it, so I need to make sure I can satisfy myself. Okay, you go ahead. But many of you guys going to meet the other side because of this. Why? Because we sitting there saying we have one spirit and thinking God going to accept us because this is all I'm doing. If you're horn around in the flesh, he's showing you what you're doing to where you can physically see it. So that's why he said, what spirit is in you? Because if you can see what you're doing, he's saying the same thing you're doing here, you're doing to me. The same thing you're fornicating over here, you having we got women putting notches on men. Let me see, I had him, I had him, I had him, I had him, I had him. And God's saying the same thing. You horn around with all these guys. You got these guys sitting there, I had her, I had her, I had her, thinking they doing something. Got these young girls sitting out there doing that thing. They're sitting out there wearing, you can go out there and see everything they got on. Pants so tight you can see the color of their underwear. And the first thing we want to sit there and say, well, that's just the way they dress. We sit out there and we try to tell people Israel need to be to dress modest. But you can see time you walk out, you can see everything on them. What spirit is in you? What spirit is in? We got our young men and young women tattoos all over their bodies. What spirit is in you? Oh, I got God with, really? Do you? The Bible clearly tells you what's going on, but we always do contrary what the Bible says, and then we thinking we holding the Holy Spirit hostage as in doing what he said, and we're not. So hopefully, just hopefully, some of you guys have gotten something out of here in understanding what was going on. Because I'm going to tell you, what you're doing in the flesh, he's showing you. That's why he covered you in flesh, so you can see what he's doing to him in the spirit. When you horn around with these people, he's saying the same thing you doing there, you done to me. and he's showing it to you. So when he sit there and say, I never knew you, don't sit there and trip. When you're going out there, you got your butt cheeks all over the place. You're sitting out there thinking you're cute. And he said, I never knew you. Because flesh, just like I said, flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. What spirit is in you? That's a devilish spirit that's in you. You think, well, nobody look at me when I wear these clothes. When I wear these clothes that's covered, are you serious? So now you want attention to you. You want people to look at you. You want people to, let me look at it. Looking like a whore. And then you wonder why when people sit there, then they say the wrong thing, then all of a sudden you get upset. That's why they say, you got people, you look like Israel, but you ain't Israel. So hopefully, people will sit there and talk about all this stuff, and they can sit there and say whatever they want to say. But this is our problem. This is a problem today. We got people who do these things. They sit there and talk about these things. They want to sit there and, I'm doing this. I can hold on to this. I can hold on to that. But we got to remember something. Those are our children out there. And they representing you. Same I told people before. One time me and my wife went to this restaurant, sitting in there, and we walk in there, we sit down, these girls walk in, you can see everything. It was nothing left to a man's imagination to see on them, on those women. Nothing. Anything you want to see, you can see it. Anything you want to see on them, you can see it. Nothing left to the man. So, and then the first thing women want to say is, I need a husband. I'm looking for a husband. We're going to be preaching on marriage this weekend, which is going to be tough for a lot of people. But you sitting there and we believe that we can do whatever we want to do. We can treat our body however we want to treat it. We can say whatever we want to say. We can mess with whoever we want to mess with because it's my body. The reason you saying it's your body because you had a spirit of Satan. If you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them right now. Other than that, we'll get ready to end. We got a little bit, so we can answer any questions if you have any right now. But our thing is, Israel, the more we go out there, the more we look. I'm talking about you have girls out there, they wearing a dang toothpick for a covering. I'm talking about you might as well just get some dental floss. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So it's a tough thing out here because many of us are going to continue to think that we can do whatever we want to do. And one of the worst things you can do is you have, especially women who sitting there talking about they looking for a husband. And the first thing they do, you go out there and you look at them, and most people won't say that. You just look at them and they saying they looking for, you look at them, dang. And the first thing you should think, will a man want a woman that's dressed like me? You stand in the mirror. Will a man want somebody dressed just like this? And you sit there, if you think, because you got everything out and have nothing to the imagination, and what you see, everybody in the world see, and there's nothing to where it's just to him, and you showing the world, and you tell me, will a man want that? Because everybody done seen it. The Bible tells you. See, when you see someone else's nakedness, that's your husband's nakedness. And if you see him, that's his nakedness. And you sitting there thinking something completely different. And the same thing with the man. You got these men walking around, they thinking they God gift to the world. Bunch of fools. And it's saying right on it right now. They ain't even wearing dental floss on Facebook. You have women want to sit there and they got the new thing. They want to twerk. They twerk it. Thinking, okay, you got this person twerking, and the first thing they say is, I want a husband. What kind of spirit is that? Let me twerk and I get a husband. I don't know, Israel. We sit there and say one thing and we do something completely different. We doing something completely different. So who desires are those? We have women sitting there talking about, well, I need a roughneck. I need me a roughneck. Then you get one, and the roughneck is he like to cheat and do everything under the sun. And then the first thing you do, you wonder, well, I don't know why he's doing this. You knew what he was doing before you got him. This is the stupidity that we do. You went and you got a cheater. Now you got the cheater, but you think you can change him. And he continually do the same thing. I don't know. Yeah, you got people sitting there. Yeah, great teaching. It's saying, is it wrong to marry Israelite woman child? I'm not sure what you're saying there. I don't understand your question. Is it wrong to marry Israelite woman child? So you need to explain that in more detail, because I'm not understanding the question. Because you need to explain that a little bit more, and that's Thompson. You need to be a little bit more in detail to where I can know what you're saying. So you need to be a little bit more in detail, and I can do it. Yeah. So we got people in this Gilead. Okay, same thing as Gilead. My biggest thing is I have a lot of people who put these names in there. When you come up with these names and you come up with made up names, you can almost guarantee I'm not going to answer your email. When anybody put in a name that we even think that it's made up, you got about 100% chance we are not going to answer it. And we don't answer for those reasons. Why? Because you're giving us another name, which is deceiving us, even who you are from the beginning. So there's no reason for us to answer it, because I look at it as spam. So that's one reason we didn't answer it. So if that's what you did and you got in here, this right here, and that's not your real name, we believe that's not your real name, because one thing I do know, we have 99.9% of people. Okay, so now you're saying your name is Gilead Israel. So now my thing is this. I'm going to ask you. I'm being very upfront. What state, where were you born? Because I'm going to tell you right now, I know what that first name actually means. I don't know if you know what that name means, and you're writing it a certain way. And that's your government name. Did you name your name that, or did your mother name you that? Because I'm very upfront. I tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do this right now. I'm getting ready to set this up right now as we speak, to where we can pull you in there. I'm getting ready to go to Zoom. I'm gonna get ready to set up a Zoom right now as we go, and we can, if everything checks out, you good, we're good. I'm getting ready to set up a Zoom right now as we speaking. And I'm getting ready to set up a meeting right now as we go, and I'm going to put the account in there to where we can set it up. So if it is what it is, I have no problem with signing you to it. And that's the thing. I just like to make sure meeting and Q&A, and we're doing it right now. Let me see. Automatic. Okay, I just saved it. I'm getting ready to post this in here. Okay, so I'm going to tell you right here, and we can sit there and do it. If everything checks out, we're good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put it in two places. I'm going to put it in here in the description, and I'm going to go over there to it, because we actually are looking for a couple other people to be in the class. And I just put it in the description. The link is in the description. You can go there. I'm gonna go there in 1 second. I'm gonna meet you guys over there, and I'm gonna put it also over here to where we can go over there. So 1 second. So if you look in the description, if you refresh your screen, you look in the description, you'll see it there. And I also put the link here. So now you also see the link there. So you're more than welcome. So what I'm asking you is, Gilead, I'm asking you to go to that link. I will meet you in there, and we'll go from there. If it is what it is, I'm good. And then we don't have no problem putting you over to the class. But hopefully everybody got something that was out of here and was going through it. And right now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over to Zoom, because we are looking for some more people in the class, to where we have a couple of the openings. And we'll put them in. So if you guys want to join in, you guys can go over to that, click on that link that's in there, and I'm going to put the link in there again. But if you refresh your screen, you'll see the link over in the description in the bottom. But go on Zoom, and I'm going over there right now. So I hope that everybody else enjoyed the teaching. Right now we're going to go over here, and if enough people come over, we're going to actually end up doing another type of a teaching in there also. So what I want to do is thank everybody who went through this and until this weekend, but then make sure that, we got the teachings by Elder Jenkins, and I'm not sure if Elder teaching tomorrow or not, but I got to go check. But other than that, make sure you guys support those brothers. And so until this weekend, I say to each and every person, hey, shalom.